UFC Fight Night, Krylov versus Spann. Full card predictions and breakdowns starting at the very bottom. First fight of the night is Jose Johnson and Garrett Armfield. I'm going with Jose Johnson. I'll say it right away. Jose Johnson, there are some things that worry me about him. In his last, well, really in all of his fights, he gets taken down relatively easy. And by relatively, I mean every single time someone shoots, it feels like he gets taken down. So obviously that's a concern. His takedown defense is trash. But one thing that isn't trash is his cardio. He has very good cardio, good ability to scramble, and he gets put on his back often, gets taken down often, but he doesn't just, sit in guard and, try to just sit there as some guys do. He looks to sweep, looks to submit, or looks to get up. Like, he always is looking, for an opportunity to do something rather than, just being on his back and doing nothing, which is good. And he will, in my opinion, have the cardio advantage over Armfield. Now, on the side of Armfield, I think there's a few things that you need to look at. First, his fight against David Onama. Yes, it was on short notice, up a weight class, but I feel like if you look at Jose Johnson and David Onama, I know they're different weight classes. They're not the same fighter, not even close to the same type of fighter. But if you look at it, they have the same reach, and actually Jose Johnson's is an inch taller than David Onama. So as far as the height and reach go, Johnson and Onama are quite similar. And for bantamweight, being 6 feet tall and having a 74-inch reach at bantamweight is, that's going to help Johnson a lot. He's a pretty good striker. He's got power. He's got speed. I think Armfield did look good on the feet against Onama at first, but in the second round, he got taken down. He shot a takedown, bad takedown. Seemed like he was gassed out a little bit and ended up getting submitted. His guard passed pretty easily and got submitted. So all in all, I'm going to go Johnson. He is a slight underdog. I do think he had a pretty good win on the Contender Series over Jack Cartwright. Jack Cartwright, 10-0 at the time, had some wins in Cage Warriors. Cartwright did. So that's a good win to have on Johnson's record. And I feel like even if you look through, he's fought guys like Charles Johnson back in the amateurs, and he's had so many fights dating all the way back to 2013, so many amateur fights, a ton of professional fights. I just feel like he's at that level where he should be able to beat a Garrett Armfield at this stage of his career. So I'm going with Jose Johnson in this one. Moving right along is Haley Cohen and Aylin Perez. What can I even say about this fight? Should either one of these women really be in the UFC? Dana said that Haley Cohen has that it factor. I think we all know what he's talking about when he's talking about the it factor for Cohen. But in all seriousness, I think Aylin Perez gets the win here. I think Aylin Perez should win. Haley Cohen has struggled in the grappling. She got held in her Contender Series fight against Claudia. In the second round, she got controlled for like 4.5 minutes of 5 minutes as one round, and she got controlled for almost 4.5 minutes of the round. And against Perez, Perez had a grappling game plan against Stephanie Egger. She did struggle sometimes. She got tripped up. Egger has good judo. It is what it is. Cohen, I don't think she's anywhere close to the level of Stephanie Egger in the grappling. So I don't think Cohen's going to be able to have too much success in the grappling. Now, she is decent on the feet, mainly because she's, pretty big, strong. She's not bad on the feet, but I just feel like Aylin Perez she's training out of MMA Masters, which is a pretty good gym. And I just feel like overall she's the one that should win this fight. She should win the grappling exchanges. Haley Cohen got submitted, granted 2.5 years ago, but against a 1-2 opponent. I don't know how you get submitted by a 1-2 opponent. And then she comes back, beats a 2-0 opponent in the Contender Series, wins a split decision. And she has won other split decisions against lesser competition as well. I think if Aylin Perez is any good, she should get this win. And I'm picking her to win using the grappling against Haley Cohen. Another underdog, 2 underdogs in a row. Could be bad, could be really good. We'll see. Third fight, Narulo Aliev versus Rafael Alves. And this one's a little bit tougher. A lot of people are saying, Aliev is going to take Alves down, just grind him out, look for some ground and pound as he always, or as he did in the Contender Series fight against Josh Wick. And I'll say it's tough to call. This one really is tough to call because Alves has definitely fought the better competition. No question about it. He's fought, Damir Ismagulov, Mark Diakase, Drew Dober. Those three are very all three of those are pretty good fight. More so, I mean, Damir and Drew Dober than Mark Diakase, but still, he's fought good competition. Got finished by Drew Dober later in that fight. Lost to Damir, got taken down. That's the question that people have about him, is that he did get taken down multiple times by Damir. And Aliev is a lot of people are comparing him to Khabib. I don't think he should be compared to Khabib. I think that's a little bit, at this point in his career, that's a little bit ridiculous. Maybe if he runs right through Alves, then maybe we can, even then I don't want to make those comparisons because Khabib's a different level. But all in all, Aliev, very good fighter. He's going to shoot over and over until he gets the takedown. And I think he's solid on the feet. I think Alves will definitely have an advantage on the feet. So I think Aliev is going to want to wrestle in this one, but I'm going to take him to win. And I took a 23-0 undefeated fighter last week, and he lost. He got dominated by Jamal Emmers, who I knew Jamal Emmers had a good skill set, but I think, if you're 23-0, you should at least be able to show more than that. But nonetheless, I do think, like I said, Alves, good fighter. Aliev has to watch the guillotine when he shoots because that is Alves. That's his go-to. His go-to is just to jump the guillotine. So if he can get the takedown, which I do think he can, and avoid the guillotine, I think he can grind out a win. I don't think he's going to finish Alves, but I could see him grinding out, maybe even winning like a 29-28 decision using his wrestling. Moving along up the card, we have Joe Selecki and Carl Deaton the third. And this is one of the easier ones to pick for me. I'm going Joe Selecki. Carl Deaton just hasn't fought the level of competition, and when he did fight a little bit higher level competition, he's lost, right? He's lost all the pretty much the next step up of competition, if you will. He's lost all of them. Jonas Vlach lost a decision. Reggie Harris, Alejandro Flores, and then his last two, I mean, he bounces back into Justin James, which is he was a former UFC fighter, but not the best fighter at all. And now you're fighting Joe Selecki, a guy that is a very good grappler. I think he'll be able to, out wrestle Deaton on the feet. I'm not really high on Joe Selecki's striking at all, really. He did get in the Alex De Silva fight, he got dropped by De Silva in the first round, got rocked. I just think his, if he just implements just the grapple heavy, wrestle heavy game plan, which I feel like he can do against Deaton, he should get the win. Like I said, Deaton, every time he seems to step up that level of competition, he doesn't really work out too well for him. And Selecki has fought some pretty good competition himself, so I'll say Selecki gets the win. He probably can find a submission, but I do think he is by far the better grappler, so pretty straightforward pick there. Next is Ode Osborne taking on Charles Johnson. I'm going Charles Johnson. I do think Ode Osborne is dangerous, but I feel like that's more so early on. As soon as the fight starts, in the first round, Ode Osborne is going to be the one in that first round that's dangerous. He's going to be the one that's looking for just whatever he can find, flying knees, elbows. You look at some of his wins. I mean, Zaruk Adeshev, but the problem I see with Ode Osborne is it's not the same as Deaton because Osborne is I don't want to compare those two, but Osborne, it seems like he's also one of those guys where if he takes a step up, and I do believe Charles Johnson is a step up. Charles Johnson is a good fighter. He lost the decision to Muhammad Makayev. Muhammad Makayev is one of the best fighters in the division. I think Muhammad Makayev is a great fighter. Loses a decision to him, doesn't get submitted. Makayev was running through guys, and Johnson, made him look human. And I know I mentioned, I say that a lot, someone making someone else look human, like Volkanovski making Islam look human for the first time, besides obviously that time he got knocked out, but still. And I think in this fight, I think Johnson, yeah, he had a split decision with Zmagulov, who a lot of people thought he lost that fight, but it's like then he follows up a month ago, just destroys Jimmy Flick. Wasn't really even a close fight. I think Johnson, he's never been knocked out in his career. I'll say that. He's never been knocked out. As far as I know, he hasn't been knocked out. I can check that now. Yeah, never been knocked out. Never been submitted either. Never been knocked out or submitted in his entire career. I don't want to jinx the guy, but I don't think it starts here. I think he survives the first round. Maybe Osborne even wins the first round, but I feel like as the fight goes on, Johnson could even find a finish. I would say if he's going to find a finish for Johnson, it might be later on. But listen, we've seen Ode Osborne. He got knocked out by Tyson Nam, who isn't, I don't think, is on the level of Charles Johnson. I mean, sure, he has a few good wins. Beat CJ Vergara, beat Saru Gadashev, Jerome Rivera 2 years ago. But like I said, Manel Kape, Tyson Nam. I think Charles Johnson's got this one. Clean striker, technical striker. I don't think grappling is going to really come into play that much in this fight. I think it's probably going to be mostly played out on the feet. And it's a dangerous fight for Johnson. I'll say that. It definitely is. It's not an easy fight for Johnson. Money has come in on Osborne. Johnson, I believe, opened up about a minus 200, and he's down like a minus 185 or minus 180. So people do respect the skills of Osborne, as do I. I'm not saying this is going to be an easy fight for Johnson. I just feel like overall he's the cleaner striker, and hell, he could even knock out Osborne if Osborne, opens up a little bit too much, beat himself open. Johnson could definitely come in there and knock him out. As he's shown, he's pretty crisp with his boxing. So, oh man, we got the return of Jordan Levitt, and he's taking on Victor Martinez. I'm picking Jordan Levitt to win, but again, this whole card is very difficult. This whole card is very difficult to predict, mainly because a lot of these fighters are making their debut. But with that being their debut in the UFC, that is. But with that being said, yeah, I'm going Jordan Levitt. Victor Martinez, sure, he's won a lot of his fight. He's won his last 5 in a row. He hasn't fought though in nearly a year and a half. Levitt's been in there 3 times in that span against Matt Sales, Trey Ogden, and Paddy Pimblett. And he's fought the better competition. Jordan Levitt, he's definitely fought the better competition. No question about that. Claudio Puelles, Paddy Pimblett, those were his 2 losses. Puelles is a grappler. Levitt likes to grapple. Paddy Pimblett won the first round against Paddy Pimblett. Controlled him against the cage. It was clear first round to Levitt. Second round, Paddy ends up submitting him. But I don't think Victor Martinez is Paddy Pimblett. And I'm not, like I said, I don't think Paddy Pimblett is some world beater himself. I don't think Paddy Pimblett's going to the top of the division anytime soon or ever. But I don't think Victor Martinez is. He got rocked. I don't think Jordan Levitt's going to be knocking anybody out, but Martinez got rocked in the first round against Rosales on the Contender Series, which was over a year ago now, right? Almost a year and a half ago, as I mentioned. So taking that much time to come back is like, I don't know, man. It's pushing me towards Levitt. I think Levitt will already have a grappling advantage. Martinez can be taken down. And I think ultimately Levitt, he's a strong dude. I know people are going to make fun of him because of the twerking, and I get it. It's like, oh, dude, you don't need to do that crap. But it's like, he is a pretty, he's a tough dude. He's a strong dude. He's never been knocked out. He's been submitted once, and I just think this is a bounce back fight for him. Victor Martinez hasn't fought in a while, fighting Jordan Levitt, a guy that's improving, still young, only 27, younger guy. I'm going Jordan Levitt to get it done. I think he'll get the grappling going, and I think he'll win that way. If the fight plays out on the feet for the most part, Martinez is alive, but then again, like I said, he got rocked and dropped on the Contender Series. So he is a good striker. He did finish that fight, rounds 2 and 3. Martinez looked very good, rounds 2 and 3 against Rosales. Pretty much doubled him up in strike. I think it was the 3rd round he doubled him up in strikes, but he showed resilience, bouncing back, and he's won a lot of fights in a row. But if you look at these, a lot of them look split decision, majority decision. Hasn't fought that much. Even after the Rosales fight, his last fight after that was in 2019. So the guy's not very active. I'm going Jordan Levitt. I just think he's got more to give at this point. Next up, Gabriela Fernandez taking on Jasmine Jasudavicius. And I'm going Gabriela Fernandez. This shouldn't shock too many people. Jasmine Jasudavicius, sure, she's been in the UFC. She's had two fights in the UFC so far against Kay Hansen and Natalia Silva. And she looked good in the Kay Hansen fight. She beat Kay Hansen, outgrappled her, outstruck, just basically beat her up at everywhere the fight went. But the thing with Kay Hansen is Kay Hansen's a 115er. Kay Hansen, she's not a 125er. She's very, very small for that weight class. So that win was like, all right, you beat Kay Hansen up a weight class, and then she loses Natalia Silva, just gets beat up. And against Fernandez, the thing I've noticed about Gabriela Fernandez is she actually has power, and her striking isn't bad. Her striking, like, she can light people up. Like, if she hits you, she can do some damage. And I feel like she's going to do some damage to Jasmine. I feel like she's going to land some shots. She might land some good kicks to the body. She likes mixing in kicks. And another thing that she does is she hunts the submission. Now that means she'll drop for a guillotine and put herself on bottom, but there's a certain level where you don't want to do that, right? When you get to like, top 15 or even like guys that are really good at grappling, you're not going to want to drop for guillotines unless 100% you have it and the person's not getting out. But I feel like Fernandez is I feel like she's a better grappler than Jasmine, better striker. I believe she's better everywhere. I think she'll have the most success on the feet if she just tries to keep the standing and just pick apart Jasmine. I'd be shocked if Fernandez loses. I just think if she just keeps the output, doesn't even have to have high output, just keep decent output, land some shots. I think Jasmine might get hurt by a few of the punches, kicks, whatever from Fernandez, just because she's Fernandez is big. I know it says they're about the same size, same height and reach, but Fernandez is she just looks strong, she looks powerful, and Jasmine on the feet just doesn't impress me whatsoever. So for that reason, I'm going Fernandez. Moving along to the main card, the first fight on the main card, we have Eric Gonzalez taking on Trevor Peek. I'm going Trevor Peek because this dude is high. When I first watched him, I was like, why is everyone so high on this guy? You know what I mean? That's what I thought at first. Why is everyone so high on this guy? He almost got knocked out by Malik Lewis. Got rocked bad in the first. Basically, was getting his ass beat in the first round, and then the second round he came back and looked pretty much how he usually does in most first rounds. He looked in the second round of that fight. Just comes out and destroys him in the second round. Knocks out Kama Worthy in the first round 6 months ago. I just feel like this guy, he's like a wrecking ball. You know what I mean? He's going to come in there and he's going to try to just run you over, destroy you. It's either you or him. One of you's getting knocked out. One of you's getting hurt. One of you's, taking a huge KO loss. And for the most part, not for the most part, he's 7-0. For every fight, it is the opposite, his opponent. Now, looking at the Ghost Pepper, Eric Gonzalez, he's another one of those guys. I mentioned a few of them on the card. He's another one of those guys that every time he takes a step up in competition, it doesn't fare well for him. If you look at his record, Eric Gonzalez, he fights Terrence McKinney, Jim Miller, both of his first two fights in the UFC. Well, he has plenty of losses on the regional scene too. Rafa Garcia is one that a lot of you might know, just for example. But 2 fights in the UFC, gets knocked out by Jim Miller. I actually mentioned their fight on the last week's card, breaking down Jim Miller. He threw like a shitty front kick up the middle, looked like, and Jim Miller just blasted him with a left hand, knocked him out, and then he gets choked out by Terrence McKinney in the first round. I don't think Gonzalez has been knocked out once in his career. I believe once in his career. So he's been knocked out once. He's had a lot of fights, but I just feel like Trevor Peek is that kind of guy where he's not going to give you space. He's not going to let you, he's going to make you as uncomposed, if that makes sense. He's just going to throw everything at you. He's going to pressure you. He's not going to make it a fight where it's like you go and then he goes. He's the one that wants to go 100% of the time. And I just think Trevor Peek's going to catch him, put him away. if Jim Miller can put him away, and listen, I love Jim Miller's a legend. I love Jim Miller. I picked Jim Miller last week to beat Alexander Hernandez. Got that one wrong, but Jim Miller is an absolute beast, absolute legend of the game. But your first fight in the UFC, losing to Jim Miller is nothing to be ashamed of. But getting knocked out like that is probably not the best look. And then getting submitted by McKinney in the first round, 2 back-to-back losses. Peak's on a roll. He's absolutely on a roll here. I know he faced some adversity, and then even facing adversity, he came back, won the fight. I think Peak's the side here. I don't think this will play out in the grappling either, if that's like a question that a lot of you might have. I'm not like Peak's grappling. I think he just got his blue belt or something in jiu-jitsu. So it's like, I don't think either of these guys, though, are coming to grapple. I think they're coming to throw down. And if they're coming to throw down, give me Peak over Gonzalez. I think we have 6 fights on this main card. Yeah, 6 fights on this main card. This one's interesting. Mike Mallet versus Johan Lainez. And I'm going Mike Mallet, but I know why. I get why people are picking Johan Lainez. I get why some people, MMA Guru, I saw he was picking Johan Lainez, and I get why. He said it's a good stylistic matchup, but I don't necessarily agree with that 100%. I don't think, Mike Mallet's, he's a solid fighter. He's definitely a solid fighter. Last time out against Mickey, this was a grappling match. Last time out against Mickey Gall, gets the win, gets left hook, just puts Gall out. He's a good boxer. He's a solid boxer. Johan Lainez, though, powerful guy. He throws a ton of power. He loads up on shots, though, which is one thing. I feel like Mallet's a smart, he's a smart fighter. I just feel like in this one, Lainez, if you look at his fights since he's been in the UFC, loses, he's had 2 fights in the UFC, loses to Gabe Green, where, he threw a lot out in the first round, dropped Gabe Green for a second there, but then got finished in the second round. Kind of just, I don't want to say gave up, but just kind of crumbled under the pressure. Didn't really have the gas tank to keep going. And Mallet, as we know, Mallet can, his power does carry into the second round and will carry into the third round. Lainez, he looked a little bit better in his last fight against Darian Weeks. His cardio problem looked to be solved a little bit. He went the distance. I don't think he won that fight. It was a split decision. I thought Weeks had it. I thought Darian Weeks should have beaten him. But all in all, when I look at this, I'm like, Johan Lainez, is he really UFC caliber? Like, he's got power in his hands, right? He's a decent grappler. Like, he's, if he gets taken down, he gets right back up. But all in all, his striking, man, something about it. It's just, he loads up on everything. And I get it, he's looking for the knockout. You can't fault him for that. But it's one of those things where you watch the guy and you're like, you can kind of see, he starts to load up, and then you kind of know when he's going to throw like a huge right hand over the top, or whatever he's looking to throw, because you could literally see him like loading up, ready to throw it. So I think Mallet will be well prepared for that, or Malott, will be well prepared for that, and could find himself a proper knockout. It was not the best. Okay. I'll keep it moving. Tatiana Suarez and Montana De La Rosa. I didn't really need to watch that much tape on this one to know who I was going with. Easily Tatiana Suarez. This, there's a reason she's like a minus 750, minus 800. Everyone thinks she's going to win. She's a dominating wrestler. She's just going to wrestle Montana, take her down. Will she find the submission? I mean, Macy Barber didn't. I don't know. I don't know if she'll, find the finish. She hasn't fought in almost 4 years, which is, there's always a concern when a fighter hasn't fought in a long time. John Jones hasn't fought in a long time. He's coming back to fight Cyril Gane, and he's a favorite in their fight. So I just feel like when you're at a certain level, when you're at a Tatiana Suarez level, where you got good wrestling, you can just take down your opponent and beat them that way. I feel like she absolutely is going to do that to Montana De La Rosa. You don't just forget wrestling. You know what I mean? Just because you haven't been in the cage for a while doesn't mean your wrestling is just going to, your you're not going to be able to wrestle anymore. That'll stay with you. Um, and I don't know, this doesn't really mean anything, but Patchy Mix, she is dating Patchy Mix, and I guess the fact that he's having a lot of success, I mean, it can't hurt. I mean, if she's seeing Patchy Mix winning all these fights, fighting for $1 million, that's got to motivate her. That's got to motivate her to want to get to the belt, want to fight the best of the best, and you know earn the belt for herself as well. So I'm gonna go Tatiana Suarez, just out wrestling Montana De La Rosa. Could find a finish, could not. She's just gonna win the fight. Easy pick there. Now this one isn't necessarily as easy. Augusto Sakai and Dontel Mays. Now look, I hate having to pick this one because Augusto Sakai, he's lost his last four all by stoppage. All four have been by stoppage, ground and pound. Knocked out by Jairzinho at the end of the first round, knocked out by Tuivasa in the second, and then destroyed by Sergey Spivak, just taken down over and over, and eventually losing in the second round. And then on the flip side, you have Dontel Mays, right? You have Dontel Mays. To be fair to Augusto Sakai, though, look at the level of competition he's been fighting versus Dontel Mays. Dontel Mays did fight Cyril Gahn years ago, and he got heel hooked by a kickboxer. So if you ever want, I mean, his jiu-jitsu, his wrestling has improved, Mays, but you got submitted by Cyril Gahn via a heel hook, and he's a kickboxer. That's not a good look at all. But Sakai, he's lost his last four, got finished in all of them. You got to wonder, like, how's his mentality? How's his, like, is his head fully in it? He's lost four in a row. If he loses this fight, he's definitely going to get cut. But as far as Mays, he shouldn't have won that, or it shouldn't be split draw. That was a weird fight against Hamdi. Hamdi was his debut in the UFC. He took down Mays, and that's the thing with Mays. I feel like a certain level he can beat Roque Martinez, Josh Parisian. There's that level where he can beat, and when you get above that level, when you start getting into the ranked level guys, I'm not even talking about Nascimento. More obviously, Gahn's a beast, but I just don't. Dontel Mays, they're even in odds. I'm not really. The people think Dontel Mays is just going to out wrestle him. Sakai, that's about the only way I can see Dontel Mays. I don't see him winning in the striking. I think in the striking, it's clearly Sakai. Sakai with the power advantage. Sakai, 100% in the striking. But with Mays, I feel like his game plan is probably going to be to wrestle. And I don't think Sakai is necessarily, I don't think he's great at defending takedowns. As he's been taken down before. We've seen it. Granted to Spivak, who's definitely a better wrestler than Mays, but Dontel Mays, we saw what he did to Josh Parisian, right? Finished Josh Parisian via elbows from the crucifix. And Pogues didn't finish Parisian. Pogues couldn't do it. And Pogues is, a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Pogues is, the guy that everyone's looking at as, I'm not saying everyone's looking at him like the next big thing, but people are looking at him. He had a little bit of hype on him, and he didn't finish Parisian. Dontel Mays did, though. Dontel Mays dominated him in the wrestling department. And like I said, that Hamdi fight, it's not a good look, but then again, Hamdi is a very good wrestler himself. So you know what? I'm not going to hold that too much against him. We got to take Abdul Wahab is a pretty good wrestler. So I'm not going to, like I said, Sakai isn't a very good wrestler. So I'm going to pick Dontel Mays. I hate picking Dontel. I hate even picking anyone in this fight, but Dontel Mays is not coming off of 4 losses. He can get the wrestling going against certain level competition, and Sakai isn't really the best at defending takedowns, or at least he wasn't in, again, Spivak is a very good fighter, very good grappler. I don't want to compare Mays to Spivak in any way because they're 2 different levels, but I feel like Mays is getting better. Sakai, you kind of know what he is, or at this point, we all know what he is. He's looking for, it's either KO or, if he doesn't get the KO, it's, he's in trouble. And I think Mays could get it done here. Co-main event of the evening. It is Andre Muniz taking on Brendan Allen. I'm going Andre Muniz. I think he is going to just be able to out-grapple Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen's a good grappler in his own right. I'll give him that. Brendan Allen, last fight against Krylov Jocko, submitted him in the first round. Like, he's a good grappler. He's not, if Muniz doesn't take him seriously, if he takes him lightly, like, Allen could win. Allen's a very good fighter. But Andre Muniz is just, if he gets you to the ground, you're in trouble. I think he's a better grappler than Brendan. Not I think. I know he's a better grappler than Brendan Allen is. Once he gets him down, he should be able to control him. Should be able to land, some ground and pound or pass guard to a dominant position. Like I said, though, Brendan Allen, not an easy fight at all, but I think Muniz is on that level where he can defeat Brendan Allen, just out wrestle him, out grapple him. En route to a decision, I don't really see him submitting Brendan Allen. If Muniz submits Brendan Allen, that's a huge feather in the cap, because Brendan Allen, that's not an easy fight to finish, especially in the grappling department. In the main event, though, we have Nikita Krylov versus Ryan Superman Spann. Ultimately, I'm going Krylov to beat Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann, if he doesn't get the knockout against Krylov, and Krylov's never been, I don't think he's ever been knocked out either. There's a few guys on this card that haven't been. He's been knocked out once, okay? He's been knocked out once, and that was how long ago? Forever ago. But he's had so many fights in the UFC. He's been submitted a few times. He's been submitted. Paul Craig submitted him in the first round. Why would you play in the, playing Paul Craig's game is just about the dumbest thing you can possibly do. But I don't see Ryan Spann. He's not Paul Craig, He's not Paul Craig. He's not Jan Blachowicz. He's not Glover Teixeira. Those are the type of guys that Krylov is losing to. He's losing to guys that if you're like a Paul Craig and you can submit him, really, like, you can just snatch on a submission in a second, or if you're a guy like Jan Blachowicz or Glover or someone that's like on that top tier, Magomed Ankalaev, like, if you're on that level, then you could probably beat a Krylov. Like, but I think he's on that level where he should beat Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann's a decent fighter, not a bad fighter at all. His last two, though, Ion Cutelaba submitted him and then beats Dominic Reyes. The absolute man, Reyes. It's sad to see what happened to Reyes' career. He's just that Yuri fight just changed him for. Maybe that people were saying the Jones fight. I think it was the Yuri fight when he got knocked out cold by Yuri. It just everything changed. Now he's getting knocked out by a jab, or getting rocked badly and finished by. I think he might have been put out cold by that jab. It looked like he was out cold from that. So I'm going Krylov. I think he is very durable, and I think all in all, he's just going to be the one. Especially if this gets out of the first round, I think it's Krylov 100%. I think he's the guy that has the better cardio. He's going to be able to. He could even finish Ryan Spann, but I'm going to go Krylov to win in the main event. To wrap up my predictions on this card, so just to recap, the dogs that I had on this card: Jose Johnson to start out the night, Aylin Perez. Like I said, Haley Cohen, not a good grappler at all. If Aylin Perez loses, it's a terrible look for her. If she gets out grappled by Cohen, it would be sad to watch. What other dogs did I pick on the card? I think Jordan Levitt and Victor Martinez are actually very close odds now. It says -125. I think they're closing. I think people are backing Martinez. A lot of money's come in on him. I think Levitt gets it done. Fernandez and Jasudavicius, the line's close. I think the line should be a little bit more in favor of Fernandez. Just going up the card, another one, Dontel Mays versus Augusto Sakai, about even odds. So this card has a lot of odds that are very close, very competitive fights. But all in all, a pretty good card. Krylov and Spann should be entertaining, should be a good one. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.